Load management is ruining the NBA. Some of those stupid skills competitions, instead of playing a game. I don't care that the games used to be 170 to 155, just because nobody plays defense. So what? At least you're seeing the best athletes on the planet competing in that sport. Now, skills competition for basketball. Pete, I did this, by the way, real quick.
Yeah.
I took a look at the NFL, and they used to play football, and those games used to be like 66 to 57 or whatever, because nobody played defense. You can't blitz and all that kind of stuff. They tried to make it so that players didn't get hurt. I get it. But like Pete Rose and Dempsey, in that All-Star game where Pete Rose ended the guy's career by, just taking him out at home plate. I get it. Players don't want their career ended like that. But you've got to give them something better. And even though I was doubtful, Pete, apparently the NFL isn't as far off as I thought. And I guess it just reiterates what you always say, that they are, everything in televised sports. So for instance, forget about the past and those games that were pre-2023 when they used to play the Pro Bowl. Now they do flag football, and the NFL's trying to roll out flag football. Who knows? They may have a flag football league, Pete, a pro flag football league. But they're doing that. They like the skills competition the way they do it with throwing, with whoever it is, whether it's somebody like Mahomes. I know it wasn't Mahomes, but somebody, a quarterback like that, and what they can do with the ball and so forth. People apparently like it. It's record, and I do mean record revenue. And guess what, Pete? It was drawing like 4.5 million people to watch it. These other sports like basketball, they don't draw 4.5 million on 10 games. It's sad. But these guys do it just with a skills competition. All right, I'll throw it back to you, Pete.
And I'll say this. I don't believe for 1 second, and I think you'll agree with this, John, that the NBA value of those teams is what they say it is. How can it be? I know they got that TV contract, so that certainly helped, right? I mean, they got that big TV contract from ESPN. I can't believe that these guys, because that contract is never going to happen again. I'm going to go out there right now and say NBA ain't getting that ever again, because the numbers just aren't there. For the NFL, the numbers are there, and they continue to be very, very strong. They seem like they continue to go up every single year. We talk about ratings and everything else. But what I like is this. Not everybody believes in load management. And I feel bad for Pop. Popovich is the guy who basically started all this down in San Antonio, and he's now struggling in his health, and he's not looking too good at this point in time. We'll see how things go, and the prayers go out to him. But the one prayer I don't go out for him with is this load management thing. What a crock of crap this is. You go out and you see what these guys do in the NHL. They dropped the gloves and went at it right away. I'm not saying that's the greatest thing in the world, but that's the emotion that hockey brings. That's the all-in that they bring. You paid to see hockey. You paid to see these guys go after each other as much as they want because they're competitors, right? That's what I think we were getting from PK. So all of what he said, I completely 100% agree with. And I think it's important to know that a guy like Anthony Edwards has spoken out many, many times right here, the Timberwolves, maybe considered one of the best young players in the NBA. He's only 23 years old, John. He's been playing like 3-4 years in the NBA already. And he's arguably one of the most exciting, one of the best players, I think, in the NBA. He's kind of a baby Jordan, everybody likes to call him. But he is an amazing kid, and he doesn't believe in load management. He's came out multiple times now saying, hey, look, you get paid the big bucks to get out there when you're only at 70%. You don't always feel 100%. Sometimes you're 60%, 70%, 80%. You go out there and you play the damn games, just like Michael Jordan and just like Kobe Bryant. So I love what the NHL did. I wish they had the opportunity, John, every year. Forget this whole thing about the All-Star game and everything else. Just get out there and have some of these, the 4 countries or whatever you want to do, something where they really want to play. And I think that was the thing, the takeaway for me was that really proved it this year that the NBA, it stunk it up. Some of the worst ratings, John, ever. It was, I think, their second worst ratings in the history of that. So that says a lot. And then all of a sudden you see the NHL, boy, that different country thing, and you've got Sweden and you've got Canada and you've got the US and everybody playing one another. That was something people wanted to see. And those players played it like it was a real game, like it was an Olympic game. That's the difference. The NBA doesn't do that.
Well, I have to agree, Pete, and they should.
Yeah.
They really should.
All right.
All right.
As we get into the NFL, John, I'll just jump with you on this one. So we all know who some of the great players are, right? And they're going to get all the name and number, all this whatever, and they go to the combines, which is Thursday. I'll be watching, of course. I absolutely live for the combines, even though I'm the first guy to say it's meaningless, because it is meaningless, right? I mean, you want to get a guy who actually looks like he runs a 4.40 on the football field. Just because he can run a 4.4 doesn't make him, or a 4.3, doesn't really make him any better. It's what they look like on film. But all that being said, it's still fun to see these freaks run. 350-pounders who can run a 4.740 like that big kid Carter down at Georgia when he went down to the combine. I mean, it's unbelievable. But I'm looking at the day 2, day 3 type guys that are going to get in the draft. So here's a couple for you, John. Mike Green, he's an edge rusher out of Marshall. He's 6'4", 250 pounds. Kind of sounds a lot like the prototypical guy on the outside who's going to get after the quarterback, right? Well, he only led all of FBS with 17 sacks this past year. This kid's going to be somebody to watch. Donovan Jackson, the offensive tackle from Ohio State, another one. But the guy I wanted to focus on for you and I, we're former linebackers. You were with the Bears. I was with the Vikings in Tampa. How about this Danny Stutzman guy from Oklahoma? First of all, if you go back, and there he is right there. This was on Twitter this year, John. He comes out there and says, you know what, guys? I want to give you guys some money because you guys work just as hard as we do. I got money. Now, we didn't hear this from the Sanders boys that I remember, right? No, we didn't. No, he's riding around fucking Colorado in his Rolls Royce. But this guy has his money, and he wants to share it with the other 18 or 19 walk-ons, John, because he knows it's not fun for them to be walk-ons. It's work every day, and they get pushed around. They get no respect. But this guy gave him respect and gave him money. So I'm really in his camp. Plus, he's a 6'4", 250-pound linebacker like they're supposed to be, who can run the sideline to sideline and make plays everywhere. 338 tackles in 3 years. I think this guy knows a little something about playing football. But is there anybody out there that you're looking at, John, where you say, he might not be a first rounder, but I like this guy? I mean, I think there's some safeties you could pick. There's a wide receiver down at TCU, John. He's only 6'5", 230 pounds. He might be one of them. Savion Williams, let me tell you, 40-inch vertical. The guy can broad jump 11 feet. I mean, some of these freakish numbers and stuff are outrageous. And then there's a safety from South Carolina with numbers that just blow his numbers away. I mean, it's amazing how good of athletes they've become year after year after year. But is there anybody you got your eyes on kind of that might be a second or third day type guy?
Well, I'll have some for you tomorrow, Pete. But I was going through some of the old stats. Obviously, Worthy, for instance, has the fastest time ever for a running back, 4.21. And allegedly, he had a 4.19 in there too, Pete. But when I was looking, and you see, as I was doing it, the NFL has a great site for that, and they show everything in the combine, and it shows history. So in other words, the fastest person ever, the best high jump or broad jump ever, and all that kind of stuff. One that I loved was, since Iowa has put out so many big stud tight ends lately, I loved that Kittle at 255 pounds ran a 4.5 at the combine. Now that's a big dude, 6'4", 250, and he looks skinny.
Yeah.
But those kinds of things impress me. And like you said, it's not just about how he looks. It's not just about that speed that day, but I'm sure it makes a difference when they are drafting that, all of a sudden they say, wow, he's 0.2 faster than the other guy that we were looking at. Maybe we could run him as a hybrid, as an H-back or whatever, which of course they've done with him, and he's done fabulous. He's a good blocker too. He's a tough kid. But I'll have a couple for you tomorrow, Pete, mainly on the linebacker side, other than your Oklahoma pal. and I'll have those for you tomorrow.
We'll have to do that. We'll maybe even take a look at South Dakota State and North Dakota State and some of those schools, because they always have guys. I mean, South Dakota State is like a football mecca. Even though they're a step down, those players are studs, and there's a lot of them in the NFL right now.
Ain't a lot to do in South Dakota.
Come on.
Not as many distractions as there are at the University of Miami.
That's true. That's true.